Hello aspirants, welcome to IAS Icons by Unacademy. This is me, Shubham Sardhalia. Sorry guys, first of all I would like to apologize because I wasn't keeping well from last 2 days. That's why we couldn't carry out with our class for yesterday, and even the geography class that was scheduled for 1 p.m. So I was not keeping well, that was the reason. But yeah, I assure you that we'll be continuing the class from now onwards. So we are here to discuss about class 6th NCERT chapter number 6. I hope all those who have joined have already watched those videos for the previous chapters. If you are joining me for the very first time, I would request you that once this class is over, you should go back on this channel. You will find certain playlist where I have discussed NCERTs for geography and history starting from chapter 1 of class 6. So you should go back to those classes also. So we'll start with our today's discussion for this class 6th NCERT for history. Before I proceed further, I just want to tell you guys that you can start your preparing for this UPSC examination with the help of India's largest learning platform, that is Unacademy. Sir, we at Unacademy offer you widest choice of educators. You, with the help of top educators of the country, can start your preparation and ultimately you can qualify this examination where these mentors, these educators will guide you throughout your preparation journey. So my name is Shubham Sardhalia. I am your educator and mentor, and the subjects I am taking up with you include current affairs, history, science and tech, social issues, internal security, etc. We are offering you various subscriptions where you will get regular classes, a proper set schedule. The faculties will be taking your classes. So just like our regular scheduled classes of school or college, we will be having daily basis classes here. You have to enroll with us in our plus and iconic subscription using this code IAS Icons. With the help of this code, you can get up to 10% off. You can opt for our optional subscriptions also. All those who want notes, because notes become really important for this preparation. So somebody of you must be confused that, sir, we want notes. From where we can get these notes? So we are offering you full-fledged complete notes for this entire examination only at rupees 9,900. You have to use this code IAS Icons if you want to purchase these notes. Our batches are starting super soon. We are giving you 0% EMI option where in small monthly installments you can opt for our courses. Abhinay Srivastav, hi, how are you? I hope you all are doing well. Starting with our discussion for this new questions and ideas. So we will be discussing chapter number 6 for our NCERT. What is chapter number 6? It says new questions and ideas. All those who have joined me, just can you please give me a thumbs up in the comment section so that I can start interacting with you. We already have discussed chapter 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Any doubt up till there you can ask me. Then we'll proceed for the discussion of our chapter number 6. So chapter number 6, which is named as what? New questions and ideas. Guys, if you remember, we started from something known as Indus Valley Civilization. We talked about Vedic ages. We talked about Janapadas and Mahajanapadas. Now we will have a brief discussion, or we'll start with our understanding of Buddhism and Jainism here. So what happened from Indus Valley Civilization? We saw ages of hunters and gatherers also. Then Indus Valley Civilization was altogether a civilization where people followed the latest techniques of living. They were having infrastructure that could be compared with the modern cities. But anyhow, it still remains the mystery that what actually happened with those Indus Valley civilization. We realized that the people were earlier living the lives of hunters and gatherers. They were moving from one place to another, but eventually with the development of agriculture, they starting rearing animals, and ultimately it gave birth to a settled life. When people started settling on places, it led to the formation of Janapadas and Mahajanapadas. So Janapadas were actually the areas where people used to live, and when certain Janapadas of these became important, it came to be known as what? It came to be known as Mahajanapadas. So what is Mahajanapada? Mahajanapadas were the places where people were living. They were ruled by a king or a leader. Eventually, when people started living together, this gave rise to new questions and ideas. It's very natural, sir. You start living in a group, you start staying somewhere. Eventually, when you are meeting people, you are interacting with them, there are n number of questions that gradually will come into your mind, and simultaneously you will be filled up with certain ideas. Now here we'll try to understand that how these questions and ideas gave birth to various philosophies that become really important. All those who have joined me, can I get a thumbs up from you, please? So, we talked about Gana. Gana was what? Gana was, thank you Abhinay Srivastav. So Gana was group of people who were living together. They had their certain rules and all. We talked about Ganas in previous chapters. So Gana we can assume as group of people, group of civilizations. Heard of this name Lord Buddha, Bhagwan Buddha. So Buddha was one such personality who belonged to a small Gana called Sakya Gana, which was a Kshatriya Gana. We talked about Varna system. In later Vedic period, the texts, those were written after the Rig Vedas. We call them as later Vedic texts. So what happened in those later Vedic texts? We found the mention of Varnas. So we had Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And these Varnas had small Ganas where people were living. So there was a Gana known as Sakya Gana. We need to remember this. Sakya Gana was the one such assembly of people who belonged to Kshatriya Varna, and Bhagwan Buddha, Lord Buddha, belonged to that Sakya Gana. He was a young man and a ruler, but he left the comforts of his home in the search of knowledge. You must have heard about this, that Lord Buddha, whose name was Siddhartha, Gautam Siddhartha we call him. Gautam Siddhartha, who later became the founder of Buddhism, was born at Lumbini some 500 years ago. So can anybody tell me where is Lumbini? You must remember this, sir. Lord Buddha was born in Lumbini. So Lumbini is in which area present day? So Gautam Siddhartha, he was a ruler. He was born at Lumbini, but he eventually realized to give up the comfort of his home, and he left his home at an early age to look for enlightenment in search of Gyan, what we call it. During those times, the certain changes took place in the society of the Mahajanapadas. Now, guys, in order to understand what is this Janpada, what are these Mahajanapadas, I request you guys to just go back to the previous classes. Are you following me? You need to understand things from there, then we will be able to understand. We can assume that when people started living together in a civilization, it came to be known as what? It came to be known as Janpada. Janpada comes from two words, Jana and Pada. So Jana meant people, common man, and Pada represented the footsteps of these people. So it actually represented that common people, they started stepping their foot, or in short we can understand, they started living in a place. We called it as Janpada. Certain Janapadas became more important than others, and we named them as Mahajanapadas. So there were certain changes that were taking place in these Janapadas. One such Janpada was where Lord Buddha belonged. So Lord Buddha left the comfort of his home, and throughout his life he taught that life is full of sufferings and unhappiness. As a young king, when he was going for a round in his kingdom, he realized that somebody was not well, somebody was dying. So he came to know that there are sufferings in life, there is unhappiness in life. And why this unhappiness, why these sufferings occur? When our cravings and desires are not fulfilled. All those who have joined me, I want to ask you a question. When we feel saddened, when we are waiting for something to happen, for example, as a child we wanted a toy. When we were not getting that toy, we were unhappy. When we grew up, our likelihood developed for a person. When we couldn't get that person in our lives, what it resulted in? It resulted into unhappiness. It resulted into sufferings. So all these sufferings, all this unhappiness was caused because we were having desires and cravings which couldn't be fulfilled. If our desires, if our cravings are fulfilled, we will be happy. It's like you ask for something, if you get it, you are very happy. But if you ask for something and you are not getting it, it will ultimately give rise to unhappiness inside you. So Lord Buddha taught the world that you need to give up on those cravings. You need to give up on the comforts. You need to give up on the luxuries of life. During those times, another people, they started thinking. Are you following me? Any doubt up till here? Anybody having any doubt, please ask me. All those who have joined, are we following it, what I am trying to say? Are we following it or not? Abhinesh Srivastav, I cannot see other people answering. So, are we following it, what I am trying to say? So, when people started, initially the only issue with people was, Abhinesh Srivastav, now, Now this is like no sir is for no doubt or you are not understanding. So what happened when initially people had to fulfill their basic requirements. The food was the basic requirement. They were in search of food. So they were hunters and gatherers because the only thing in their life was they had to hunt and they had to collect food items. But once they started living a settled life, they started practicing agriculture, they started animal rearing. Now they no more had to worry about food because they knew from agriculture, from the animal produce, they can get regular food. So now when they were not only concerned about food and eatable items, so their brain started giving them the ideas, and these ideas by the people of those times developed into schools of philosophy. We need to remember this. Sir, there were certain philosophies that developed. What is philosophy? What do you understand by philosophy? What do you understand by philosophy, sir? See, our brain is a very, very special thing, very, very special machine. From the day we are born till a person dies, his brain never stops working. Consistently, continuously, some or the other thing is going on our minds. We call them as what? Ideas. We call them as thoughts. When we try to understand, when we try to summarize what our ideas, what our thoughts are telling us, this becomes philosophy. So people of those times had certain ideas, certain thoughts. So everybody would have the thoughts or the ideas, but only few were like, they were daring enough to tell the world about their idea, that this is something which is going on in our minds. And when these ideas, these thoughts came in front of the world, we named them as philosophy. So initially during those Mahajanapada times or the earliest human history, we had various schools of philosophy. So school was something, don't confuse it with the schools that we have in modern day that people go and study there. So school of philosophy meant the thought process. So there were 6 major thought processes. One was named Vashisheka, other was Nyaya, then we had Yoga, then we had Sankhya, Vedanta and Mimamsa. And these schools were propounded, these philosophies were given by various sages, various rishis. We need to remember this also. The rishi who gave up the philosophy of Vashisheka, his name was Kannada. The rishi, the sage who gave the philosophy of Nyaya, his name was Gautama. The sage who gave the philosophy of yoga was Patanjali. The sage who gave the philosophy of Sankhya was Kapila. The sage who gave the philosophy of Vedanta was Vedvyas, and the sage who gave the philosophy of Mimamsa was Jamini. So these were the philosophies. Now we need to understand that what is this philosophy. We are fine that they had certain thought processes. They told about their thought processes to the entire world, and they become the school of thought. But what this philosophy meant, for example, if we talk about Vashisheka, it was the science of logic. So here this philosophy, they wanted to answer everything with logic. For example, why night is occurring, why we have change of seasons, why there is rainfall, why people die. So for everything they were giving a logic. It was a science of logic. That was Vashisheka. Then Nyaya was another philosophy. They went for logical quest for God. So these philosophies, they tell that ultimate aim was the attainment of God. We are here on this earth in search of God, that what God actually is, where God actually resides. So here what was happening, Nyaya philosophy said that we need to be logical to understand about God. We need to know the phases of creation. Then we had this school of thought, that was yoga. Yoga, you all know, it is a art of performing certain structures in body. This is a practice of meditation and samadhi. So in this yoga school of philosophy, ultimately every school of philosophy meant that we need to attain, we need to understand what God is, we need to find God. That quest for knowledge, that quest for enlightenment was also known as the quest for God. So yoga school of philosophy or Patanjali sage told that if you practice meditation, if you take samadhi, you will be able to attain that enlightenment. Then there was Sankhya. It said eliminate physical and mental pains and receive liberation. In this philosophy, we were told that if we give up on all the physical and mental pains, if we stop feeling for anything that is happening. We should not be happy. If there is something sad, we should not feel sad about it. We just should accept that whatsoever is happening is the will of God. That gave us the philosophy of Sankhya. Then we have the philosophy of Vedanta. It explains the divine nature of soul, Maya and creation. So what is the divine nature of soul? It is told that we have a soul inside us. Even though when our body will stop living, after the death of an individual, that soul will get transferred from person to person. The soul will never die. So this was another school of thought. It was Vedanta. Then the last school was Mimamsa. It explained that Vedas were eternal and divine. What were Vedas? Sir, Vedas were the earliest text. Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, Atharva Ved. So these were the 6 schools of philosophical thoughts. What are these philosophical thoughts? The ideas that were coming in the minds of people. So few people, they were courageous enough that they presented their ideas in front of people, and eventually there were many people who joined them that yeah, I was also feeling the same, so I should be the part of this Nyaya school of thought, this Vashisheka school of thought or something like that. Are we following this or not? Any doubt up till here, please? Do we have any doubt up till here? You can just let me know. Any doubt up till here? The basic understanding. See, in certain exams we can be asked the who propounded the which school of philosophy. So you at least should remember that Vashisheka by Kannada, Nyaya by Gautama, Yoga by Patanjali, Sankhya by Kapil, Vedanta by Ved Vyas, and Mimamsa by Jamini. After that, what happened? So people were thinking, they were trying to answer difficult questions. For example, you were staying in the world and you could see that yeah, we have nights and days, we have rainfall, we have other things, we have sufferings. Somebody is happy, somebody is sad, somebody is taking birth, other one is dying. So when people try to think of these situations and they try to answer these difficult questions, these thinkers were of the view that there was the Atman, or the individual soul, or the universal soul. So it was Atman. Atman was individual soul. So every individual had a soul inside him. Even when the body of individual will stop working, that Atma or that Atman will continue to stay. Then they talked about a universal soul or named it as Brahmin. Brahmin is like Brahman, Brahmand Atman. So entire universe had one soul, which we later called as God. So what today also we believe that there is one supreme power that is controlling the entire universe. So they talked about individual souls and a universal soul. So individual souls were human and universal soul was God. Upanishad were the text that gave importance to the universal soul or the God. So Upanishad, what happened when people of these times, they were having certain doubts, they tried to answer those questions, those doubts. Those things were mentioned into the textbooks which we named as Upanishads. Just like Buddhism, there was another philosophy which eventually became a religion. It was called as Jainism. We have 2 religions, Buddhism and Jainism, and eventually when we proceed further with the next classes, we will try and understand all these things in much more detail, that how Buddhism started, what were the features of Buddhism, how Jainism started, what were the features of Jainism, how Buddhism and Jainism were different from each other. We'll eventually understand those things. Now again, I'm telling you that we are reading this 6th class NCERT, which is meant for a 9 or a 10-year-old child. So just basic overview. Just like Buddha belonged from this Sakya Gana, we had Jainism, which was founded by Lord Vardhaman Mahavira, who belonged to Vaji Gana Sangha. Just like Lord Buddha, he also left his home at the age of 30 and went to live in the forest. For years, he lived there, he carried out meditation. He looked for that quest of knowledge, made him sit in the forest and look for that inner peace, that enlightenment, look for the purpose of living. So finally he attained enlightenment, and similarly Lord Buddha also attained this enlightenment. So both Mahavira and Buddha, Mahavira founded Jainism, Lord Buddha founded Buddhism. Both of these felt that the worldly life should be given up. It was said that ultimate aim of coming to this earth, we never came to this earth to enjoy the life of luxury. We never came to the earth to sit in a luxury car. We never came to the earth to live in a luxury mansion. Our reason that we were made to born on this earth was we were here to gather some knowledge, the true knowledge, what they called as enlightenment. We should know, we should have the knowledge about God, what God is, how that God is important in our life, how will we attain that knowledge. So both Mahavira and Buddha, they preached this philosophy that only and only if you give up this worldly life. What is worldly life? The day-to-day life that we live. We have families, we have desires, we want luxuries. So if only those individuals who are able to give up on the worldly life, who are able to give up on the luxuries and become monks. Monks is what? Bhikshu. So bhikshu term comes from somebody who is asking for alms, who is asking for help for his daily life. So only if you become a monk, only if you become a bhikshu, you give up worldly life, then only you will be able to attain true knowledge. Because both of them, Lord Buddha and Lord Mahavira, they themselves gave their worldly life. They wanted people to become monks, come at one place and start meditating, start religious studies. They set up organizations called sanghas. Now what is sangh? Sangh is an organization where people were coming. So thing was that when they started preaching this practice that you should give up the world, you should give up the worldly life and come together to live in a sangha. Ultimately, many people came, they were influenced by this philosophy, these teachings of Buddha and Mahavira. So they went to them that, sir, you asked us to give up the worldly life, so we have given up. Now tell us, where should we live? Where should we study? Where should we start our meditation? So those times, Buddha and Mahavira, they set up organizations which were called as sanghas. Jain and Buddhist monks went from place to place, and therefore they required permanent shelters. So what happened? They were the part of sangha. So sangha was an organization of people, and in order to study, and ultimately only studying was not the aim. They were told that once you are clear with this knowledge, once you have this wisdom, you should pass on this wisdom to people. So it was, they were residing in one place. Once they have attained the enlightenment, now they want to go to another places to teach people, to tell people about those philosophies, about that enlightenment. So because of this, they had to travel from place to place. When they had to travel from place to place, the need was felt that different places should have permanent shelters, so that when any of these monks who are there to preach about the religious philosophies, who are there to preach about the knowledge, the actual knowledge of the world, they can stay over there. As a result, these permanent shelters were made. They are known as monasteries today, mutt. You go to Leh Ladakh, you will find various monasteries. Why? Because eventually, when you will study the entire syllabus of UPSC, you will realize that because of certain reasons, these Buddhist monks, they had to come all the way from Tibet and settle in Himalayan ranges of India. So wherever you found the Buddhist population, you will find lots and lots of monasteries. So what were these monasteries, sir? Monasteries were the places where people who, on the on the advice of Lord Mahavira and Buddha, gave up their normal life and started their quest for knowledge. So they used to live there. These monasteries were known as Viharas. Remember this term, it is asked many times in examination, what are Viharas? So sir, monasteries that were built were known as Viharas. We talked about Upanishad, the texts. Guys, can you please tell me, are we following it or not? Just let me know. See, we cannot let go the things like that. If we are able to follow, you tell me. If you are not understanding anything, you can ask me to repeat, please. Any doubt up till here? If you have any idea, you can please ask me. So what was happening? Upanishads were the texts that had certain teachings. Upanishads carried no issues. Abhinay, no issues. If you have any issues, if you have any doubts in English, you can simply ask me, need not to worry. So what was happening? People were learning things, and these things were written in Upanishads. Eventually these Upanishads become important texts. So Upanishads were written by people The Brahmins, we talked about Brahmins. Brahmins were people who were performing rituals, they were studying Vedas. So Brahmins were writing these Upanishads which were told to people. During those times, a person by the name Panini, we need to again remember this, a grammarian. When intellectual ideas started coming up, we saw the development of schools. Apart from those, there were another intellectual ideas. One such example of intellectual scholar of those times is Panini. He was a grammarian. He gave the grammar for Sanskrit. Sir, you need to remember these small informations. Panini. Who was Panini? He was the grammarian. Because he gave grammar for Sanskrit. You must have studied about grammar in English. So grammar is a set of rules. So English grammar will have set of rules for English. Sanskrit grammar will have this rules for Sanskrit. So Panini is known as the Sanskrit grammarian because he gave the rules about grammar. He used to write down the rules some 3000 years ago. Then we talked about Jainism. Jainism again was started by Lord Mahavira, and he gave the same philosophy that we need to give up that worldly life, only then we can receive the enlightenment. Mahavira started teaching people, and he started teaching people in this language known as Prakrit. There is one language which is known as Prakrit. So Lord Mahavira used Prakrit as a medium to teach people, to preach people, because Prakrit was the language of common man. Common man could understand. Not everybody at that time was able to understand languages like Sanskrit. So Lord Mahavira, he decided to teach and preach in Prakrit as a language. Are we following it? So followers of Mahavira were known as Jains. They had to live very simple life. They had to beg. From where this term bhikshu came, they had to beg for their daily living. They need not to have any worldly pleasure. But leading that type of life, giving up on your home, giving up on your family, giving up on your desire, and leading a life of a monk becomes really difficult. So majority of people couldn't follow. Jainism was supported by people like traders, farmers. So these people were told that you should not kill any creature, be it a small insect, be it, you should not harm anybody. So these were the teachings. Then both Mahavira and Lord Buddha felt that the people who left their homes should be given a place to stay. This led to the formation of Sanghas. Sanghas were the organization, Sanghas were the group of monks who used to stay together. But eventually, since these monks were traveling from place to place, they required a place to stay. This gave the concept of Viharas or monasteries. So monasteries were the permanent shelters. Those who joined Sanghas, it included Brahmins, Kshatriya and Vaishyas, traders also. Then, are we clear with what are monasteries and other things? Are we clear till here or not? Then the Upanishad texts talked about 4 ashrams: Brahmacharya, Grihasthashram, Vanprasthashram and Sannyasashram. Have you ever heard about this? Upanishad texts, they say that you have to give your worldly life. Then they talked about 4 stages of life: Brahmacharya, Grihasthashram, Vanprasthashram and Sannyasashram. Any idea about any of these? Or even if you have heard them somewhere, you can just let me know. What is Brahmacharya ashram? Have you ever heard these terms? So ashram normally is a term used where sages and other people stay. So it's not a place where people stay. This ashram meant the stages of life. The Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya, they were expected to lead a very simple life. They were told to study about Vedas during the early life. Just like we send a small child in kindergarten today, we send a small child in a play school today. In the very similar way, the initial early ages of an individual's life were considered as Brahmacharya, when his job was he should start reading about Vedas. So what happened when somebody was born, when a child was born in 1 or 2 years or 3 years, he was told, it's your time to read Vedas. So the early years of a person's individual's life was known as Brahmacharya. Then second stage came Grihasth. Grihasth comes from Grihasti, Ghar. So in second stage, that individual was allowed to get married, that you can get married, you can have children, you can have a life. For some years, the second part of his life was called as Grihasthashram. In third part, he was told that since you have enjoyed enough life with your family and children, now it's your time to leave those worldly pleasures. See what is happening. What makes you great are the sacrifices. We know people for the sacrifices they made. If from Brahmacharya directly we were asked to be a monk, it was easy because we haven't seen the luxury, we haven't seen the pleasure of life. A small child, if direct straight away is asked to live a life of a monk, he won't be having any problem because that's how his entire life is developed. So what was happening here was, first you were asked to live in Brahmacharya, then you were given an opportunity to be part of Grihastha ashram, where you have the worldly life, you have your partner, you have your children. But now the difficult part comes once you are settled in that life, you are attached to your partner, you are attached to your children. Now you are asked to give that sacrifice, now that leave aside each and everything and go for the third stage of your life. That was Vanprastha ashram. Vanprastha is a term derived from one is forest. So Vanprastha ashram asked individuals that now you should leave your home, go to the forest and start living the life of a monk. Then the final stage of life or the death is called sannyas ashram. The sannyas ashram was the position when person's soul leaves his body. Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya were expected to lead lives according to this. But do you think it was easy to follow? If somebody tells you that right from your childhood you start reading Vedas, then you get married, you have a family, and now it's time to leave your family, go to a forest, start meditating and ultimately give up your life over there. Sir, it was very difficult. So not everybody could follow these. Lord Mahavira believed that person's position in life depends on karmas of his previous life. So Lord Mahavira told that how your life presently is because of what you did in your previous life. So he said that our deeds, our karma should be clear. Not even unknowingly you should cause harm to any organism. He always preached that people should follow ahimsa, non-violence, not causing any harm, any danger to anybody. He asked his followers not to lie, not to steal or kill. You must have seen the Jain people, they walk barefooted because it is believed that if you step barefooted on a small creature, it may be saved. But if you step on a creature wearing a slippers, you will definitely kill that small creature. So they are walking barefooted so that they are not causing any harm. They always keep their mouth covered, so that while talking or while even yawning or while eating, the small organisms, small living organisms, the small tiny bacteria that are in the air, they may not enter their mouth, and ultimately once they enter their mouth, they can get killed. So they were leading that life of those much rules that even unknowingly also they are not causing any harm. The followers of this philosophy were known as Jains. They lived a simple life and begged for their food. Dissatisfied with such changes, many thinkers gave up worldly life, went to forest for meditation and saw true meaning of life. So there were certain changes that were happening around. For example, somebody was dying, somebody was suffering. So it was seen that life is not as smooth as we see it. Lord Buddha, when he was the Gautam Siddhartha, he said that I lead a life of luxury because I come from a royal family. But it's not the same. There are changes with respect to people. So seeing those changes, he became dissatisfied that if even single person is not happy, that doesn't make any reason for him to be happy. So he gave up all the worldly pleasures. He left his home at the age of 38 and attained enlightenment under a peepal tree in Bodh Gaya in Bihar. So he was born in Lumbini in Nepal. He attained enlightenment under a peepal tree. We call it as a Bodhi Vriksh. It is in present day Bihar in a place called Bodh Gaya. So Lord Buddha got enlightened. He got the knowledge of this world. He got the knowledge about God in Bodh Gaya in Bihar. Now, what was the next step? He himself attained, so it all started, he went to attain knowledge. He attained knowledge. Now, the next step was where, what is the use of this knowledge now? Now, the next step was he had to give that knowledge to people. So that knowledge was to be told. So he delivered his sermon. Sermon was like a speech. He started giving that knowledge to people. His first sermon was at Sarnath. We need to remember all these places, Sir Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, associated with the life of Lord Buddha. He preached in Prakrit. Again, just like Mahavira, he preached in Prakrit, the language spoken by common people. So just like Mahavira, he was trying to connect with common man. That common man is able to understand what he is saying. So monks of Buddhism and Jainism, they started living in monasteries. So earlier monasteries, the monasteries were called as Viharas, and these earliest Viharas looked something like this. They were made of wood, they were made of bricks. You can simply Google monasteries in Leh Ladakh, you will find these were the places where these Buddhist monks could stay. Then we talked about Upanishads. So various thinkers tried to answer difficult questions. It was mentioned in Upanishads. Jainism we talked about Buddhism. Then Jainism told us about something known as Ahimsa, the philosophy that Mahatma Gandhi always preached. So what was this philosophy? The philosophy said that people had to follow Ahimsa. People have to make sure they are not hurting others. According to Mahavira, each living being longs to live, which meant that every living being has right to live. He should not be killed, he should not be hurt. We talked about the concept of Atman, the individual soul, which remains permanent in the universe even as we die, and was called by Atman, individual soul that is inside everybody. Then they talked about what? They talked about universal soul or God. Buddhism was the philosophy given by Lord Buddha. Jainism was the philosophy given by Lord Vardhaman Mahavira. Both of them talked about karma. Karma were the actions that we were doing. So karma had been referred by our present actions, our present deeds were referred as karma, and these karma would decide how our life, how our next life after our death would look like. Buddha said that our karma, good or bad, affect us both in this life and in the next life. So we have heard many times from our parents also, from the elders also, that whatsoever is your karma, you will receive that only, and it's same for this life also, and the life which is coming next, there also you have to bear the fruit of that karma. Then they talked about tanha. The desire for more things has been described as tanha or tamha. It's called as tama or tanha. So this tamha meant that desire, I want this, I want that, and this tama or desire is endless, sir. Today you can relate. When you were in school, you wanted a bike. When you came in college, you wanted a car. When you started working, you wanted a bigger car. When you had a family, you wanted even bigger car. So this tamha, this desire for worldly pleasures, this desire for luxury is never ending. So this was told Upanishad. They were the later Vedic texts, and Upanishad means approaching and sitting near. We need to remember, sir, Upanishad meant what? Upanishad meant approaching somebody and sitting near to them. So Upanishad were certain set of rules that sages, that rishis used to tell people. So it was like that a rishi is sitting here, he is teaching something, and people are coming closer to him and sitting around him. Things that were told were written as Upanishad. So this was the concept of Upanishad. Upanishad was a later Vedic text. So around 2500 years ago, Upanishad thinkers preached. So Upanishad thinkers, there were various thinkers, there were sages, there were rishis. During the same period only Mahavira and Lord Mahavira and Lord Buddha preached. And around 1500 years ago, that is 500 AD, Jain texts were written down. Are we able to understand things there or not? I'm again asking you, these are the thoughts that how it all started. Mahavira or Lord Buddha, they were a common person just like us, but they started to have that thought process that coming to this world, eating, sleeping, and then going for other players is not the meaning of life. If we are sent to this life, there has to be some purpose. So their purpose was the quest of knowledge, to understand that purpose of life, they started this practice, they started thinking, and just like them, many other people started thinking. They had certain ideas, and we tried to understand those ideas, and it was known as philosophy. This led to formation of what? This led to formation of schools of philosophy. This led to formation of various ideas which ultimately became way of life, which ultimately became religion. So we talk about Jainism, Buddhism, etc. Are we clear up till here? Any doubt we have, you can simply ask me. Are we clear, my dear friends? Anything you want me to repeat? Anything you want me to repeat? Okay, thank you, Abhinav. So I could receive this text only from Abhinav as of now. So guys, even if those who are watching me after this live session ends, you can drop your comments with the queries, and in the next videos I'll cover those doubts. So anything you need to ask, you can simply post it as a comment. So that's all for our discussion of chapter number 6 of NCERT class 6 history. Before I end, I just want to tell you that if you are aiming to qualify this examination, you need to master the art of answer writing, which you can do with the help of Unacademy's test series for year 2023. Just at rupees 14,990, you can opt for this test series. You will get comprehensive answers, will give you live evaluation and feedback. You can opt for optional test series also, like anthropology, PubEd, geography, mathematics are available with you. You can take the help of our educators and mentors. With the help of our Plus and Iconic subscription, you will be able to understand the entire syllabus. You will be able to answer the questions asked in exam and ultimately qualify this examination. You need to remember that you have to use this code IAS Icons. Are we following it or not? So you need to use this code IAS Icons. No, nothing like that, Abhinay Srivastav. I enjoy a lot when you guys ask questions. Pragati Manyale. I hope you have liked this session, and every day at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. we will have sessions for NCERTs. You should remember, every day at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. we will be having NCERT sessions. At 1 p.m. we are discussing geography, and at 3 p.m. we are discussing history. Apart from that, I will be bringing for you certain current affairs. Also will be having special classes and regular classes on the Plus and Iconic platform of Unacademy. You need to enroll for that, and you have to use this code IAS Icons. Guys, before we proceed further, we have GSC Combat on 2nd of October. It will be a gamified contest where you need to answer certain questions. It will be a live test where you can compete, and if you are able to get a good rank, you can earn up to 50% of scholarship. I hope we are clear till here. Those who have joined my class for the first time, I request you to subscribe to our channel. You can go on Telegram and join our Telegram channel by the name IAS Icons. I am uploading PDFs there. Any doubt you have, you can reach out to me through that Telegram channel, and you should follow us daily for another important updates for this exam preparation. Thank you very much. All the best. Keep working hard. Bye bye. Take care. Jai Hind.